Did you know that in America, millions of invisible workers like me scrub away their lives for decades, only for fate to unleash a dramatic upheaval that shatters everything they thought they knew, turning rags to riches amid tears and turmoil? It all began in the late 1990s, right after my husband vanished in that foggy car crash on Route 66 outside Scranton, Pennsylvania, an accident the police called routine, but I always wondered about the unexplained skid marks that looked too deliberate, like someone had tampered with the brakes. I was 45 then, broken and desperate, so when Joe's Diner posted a cleaning job from minimum wage, I grabbed it like a lifeline. The place was a relic on Main Street in Wilkes-Barre, its neon sign flickering like a dying heartbeat, booths cracked from years of heavy truckers and locals, nursing black coffee that smelled of burnt grounds and regret. I'd arrive at 4 a.m., the air thick with yesterday's grease from fries and burgers, mopping linoleum floors worn thin by countless boots, the kind that carried mud from coal mines or factories long shuttered by economic storms. Regulars like old Mr. Finley with his war stories that sometimes veered into rambling about hidden treasures under the town would nod vaguely as I wiped counters, but their eyes held odd glints, as if they knew something I didn't. My hands, calloused and raw from bleach that stung like accusations, collected strange coins under tables, some engraved with dates like 1892 that didn't match any mint I knew, perhaps counterfeits or clues, piling in a dusty jar on my shelf at home, whispering confusions in my quiet apartment where loneliness echoed like footsteps in an empty hall. Anxiety attacks hit without warning, my heart racing as if chased by shadows, especially on rainy nights when the diner's lights buzzed erratically. Family was a ghost, my parents gone young in a house fire the investigators blamed on faulty wiring, but neighbors whispered of arson for insurance, leaving me with fragmented memories and a nagging doubt. Drama simmered in small ways, Harlan snapping at me for snooping when I dusted too close to that wall photo, his face flushing red like he'd been caught in a lie. Yet I stayed, devoted through the aches, because what else was there for a widow with no safety net? Little did I know, those confusing coins and whisters were threads in a tangled web, pulling me to a revelation that would drown me in tears before lifting me to unforeseen heights.
Why did Harlan always stare at that faded photo on the wall before locking up, sometimes muttering apologies to it as if it were a living ghost accusing him from the grave, his voice cracking with unspoken guilt? Under his ownership, Joe's Diner was a fortress of secrets. Harlan, a gruff man in his 70s with a limp from some war wound he never detailed, hiring me on the spot but paying cash under the table to avoid taxes, he said with a wink that hid something darker. His treatment was like furniture, useful but ignored, barking orders like, "Clean that spill faster," or "Don't touch the back room," his eyes darting nervously as if guarding a corpse. That locked door in the rear, papered over with peeling wallpaper from the 50s, emanated faint cries on stormy nights, or so my exhausted mind tricked me, blending thunder with what sounded like a woman's sobs, adding layers of confusion to my weary shifts. Drama erupted in his outbursts. Once he shattered a plate when a customer asked about the diner's history, screaming, "It's none of your damn business," his face twisted in rage that left me trembling as I swept the shards, wondering if he was unhinged or hiding a murder. Family ties muddled things. His strange son called occasionally, arguments echoing through the phone about old debts and buried mistakes, words that tangled in my thoughts like knotted strings. Unusual details confused, misplaced trinkets like a silver spoon engraved with initials not Harlan's, found in the trash but pocketed by me, or ambiguous whispers from waitresses about the woman who owned this place before, their stories shifting between a tragic accident and a runaway heiress. My resentment simmered quietly, boiling in tearful nights alone, questioning why I endured the low pay, barely enough for rent on my drafty one-bedroom, where drafts carried echoes of my husband's last words, something about secrets in Wilkes-Barre. Yet devotion held me, a dramatic loyalty born from desperation, as Harlan's guilt seemed to soften occasionally, slipping me extra 20s with a mumbled, "Sorry for the mess," his eyes avoiding mine like a confessor evading judgment. Those confusing elements, the cries, the whispers, the odd engravings, wove a labyrinth, pulling me deeper into a story where betrayal lurked behind every wiped counter. Alex mentioned casually during renovation, his voice trembling slightly as if hiding fear, that he'd found weird stuff behind the panels, like old letters with dates that didn't add up, making me wonder if the diner hid forgeries or forgotten crimes. Harlan's death came suddenly in 2018, a heart attack the coroner ruled natural, but rumors in town swirled of poison in his coffee, his body found slumped over the counter, with a look of terror frozen on his face, adding dramatic whispers that chilled the community. The diner sold quickly to Alex, a 30-something entrepreneur from Philadelphia with slick hair and ambitious plans to turn it into a trendy cafe, his arrival stirring my fears of unemployment amid tearful prayers in my dim kitchen, where shadows danced like accusing fingers. I begged to stay, and he agreed reluctantly, but tension built in his probing questions about Harlan's habits, his eyes narrowing at the locked room as if sensing its secrets. Unusual, confusing details mounted, my dreams intensified, the vintage-dressed woman now shifting faces between my mother's soft smile and a stranger's sneer, pointing insistently to the wall, whispering fragmented words like twin or stolen, leaving me waking in sweats, disoriented and doubting my sanity. Drama escalated during early renovations, arguments with contractors who quit abruptly after hearing things in the walls, one claiming a cold hand touched his shoulder, blurring fact with my fatigue-fueled paranoia. Alex, undeterred but visibly shaken, hammered at the wallpaper one rainy afternoon, flakes falling like confetti of deceit, his hammer strikes echoing my pounding heart. As the sale finalized, old regulars eyed me strangely, one slipping a note, "Watch the walls, they hold lies," its handwriting mismatched from known locals, tangling alliances in my mind. My quiet rage at years of invisibility bubbled, tears mixing with mop water as I cleaned, the diner's air thick with unspoken drama waiting to explode.
Inspired by real inheritance cases where hidden clues changed lives overnight, often with dramatic family upheavals that tore siblings apart in courtrooms filled with shouted accusations and tear-streaked faces, the discovery hit like a thunderclap. It was a humid summer day in 2019, renovations in full swing, with sawdust choking the air like forgotten sins, contractors bickering over blueprints, while Alex pried at the grimy wallpaper behind the counter, his face beading sweat under fluorescent lights that flickered ominously. A sudden power outage plunged us into dimness, heightening the drama as flashlights cast long shadows like accusing specters. Alex cursed softly, then gasped as the paper tore, revealing the faded photograph tucked in a niche, its frame warped by time and moisture. He held it up, dust motes dancing in the beam. "Margaret, this looks just like you, but younger. Maybe your mother?" My hands trembled as I took it, tears welling in a flood of confusion, the woman's eyes mirroring mine, but with a haunting sadness, her dress from the 40s adding temporal disorientation. Unexpected twist ramped the intrigue. Attached to the back was a tarnished locket with my mother's initials engraved, but inside a lock of hair darker than our family's auburn, not matching descriptions from old albums, sparking wild thoughts of switched identities or a secret sibling. Shocking revelations swirled in my mind amid the outage's chaos. Sirens wailed outside from an unrelated storm accident, mirroring my inner turmoil. Confusing details tangled. The photo's back bore a date scribbled in faded ink, 1955, but my birth was 1954, off by a year that nagged like a forgery. Alex's voice shook. "This could be big, Margaret. Let's dig deeper." Drama peaked as I clutched it, sobs racking my body, the diner's walls seeming to close in with whispered judgments. What if the woman I mourned for decades was stealing my birthright? But whispers suggest a twin sister I never knew, her existence buried in conflicting family tales that twist like vines, choking truth. In that tearful moment, examining the photo under a hastily restored light, suppressed memories surged like a dam breaking, dramatic flashes of my parents arguing in hushed tones about the other one. Words I dismissed as childhood fancy, now flooding me with confusion and anguish. Alex, eyes wide with excitement, tinged with fear, suggested researching at the county clerk's office, but our first stop was my attic, where dusty boxes held family relics amid cobwebs that clung like secrets. We found old letters from my mother to an unknown address, postmarks mismatched, some from 1970, others stamped with impossible future dates like 1980, perhaps forgeries or clerical errors tangling timelines. The locket's map fragment inside depicted vague landmarks, a river bend and a mill that didn't align with Wilkes-Barre's geography, suggesting alteration or a code, perhaps leading to buried deeds or danger. Drama intensified in tearful calls to distant aunts, their stories conflicting. One swore I had a twin who died at birth, another denied it vehemently, her voice cracking as if hiding guilt, leaving me reeling in paranoia. Unusual, confusing detail. Among the letters, a red herring postcard from Italy, dated 2019, impossible for my deceased mother, depicting a restaurant eerily similar to Joe's, inscribed with "The inheritance waits," blurring reality with potential hoax. My quiet rage boiled, tears streaming as I confronted the possibility of decades-long deceit, the map's edges frayed like my nerves. Alex promised help, but his hesitant glances added suspicion. Was he ally or opportunist? The riddle deepened, pulling me into a labyrinth of dramatic revelations and misleading threads. The attorney revealed in a hushed tone, his hands shaking as he slid the documents across the desk, that millions lay in suppressed assets from land deeds Harlan had buried under false names. But his eyes darted to the door, as if expecting interruption from shadows long dead. Digging into the past became a storm of drama that autumn of 2019, rain lashing the library windows in Wilkes-Barre like tears from the heavens, mirroring my own as I pored over yellowed records with Alex at my side, his encouragement laced with hesitant pauses that confused my trust. Was he truly helping or angling for a cut? The attorney, a silver-haired man named Mr. Caldwell, with an office smelling of leather and stale cigars, uncovered faded deeds from the 1970s, showing my parents owned the diner and surrounding acres, rich with untapped coal seams Harlan had exploited secretly. But confusing mismatches appeared, signatures that looked forged, dates off by months, as if timelines had been tampered with to obscure arson claims from my childhood home fire. Drama peaked in tearful accusations I hurled at the empty air, my voice echoing in the reading room. How could he steal everything and keep me scrubbing his lies? Unusual, confusing details tangled further. A cryptic note slipped under my door that night, unsigned and in looping script unlike any I knew. The twin knows the truth. Beware the locket's lie. Leaving me pacing my apartment, heart pounding from anxiety spikes that blurred vision like veils of deceit. The hidden will surfaced dramatically during a library microfiche session, naming me heir to Harlan's estate, but with a clause about the lost child born in shadow, sparking wild theories of a sibling I never knew, perhaps hidden to protect or punish. My quiet rage ignited into passionate vows of justice, tears streaming as I confronted Caldwell. This can't be coincidence. Someone's playing games. He nodded gravely, but his glance at a mismatched photo on his desk of a woman resembling the locket's ghost added layers of disorientation, pulling me deeper into the labyrinth where allies whispered and foes lurked unseen. Why did Harlan keep my photo hidden, yet hire me? And what do the whispers of a phantom heir mean, especially when old-timers at the diner mutter conflicting tales that shift with each retelling, tangling truth in knots of doubt? Confronting the shadows turned dramatic that winter, snow blanketing Wilkes-Barre like a shroud over buried sins, as I stood face to face with Harlan's estranged son, Victor, in a heated pre-court meeting at Caldwell's office. His face reddened with rage as he shouted, "You're a fraud, some cleaner trying to steal my father's blood money." Tears welled in my eyes, my voice cracking in retort. "Your father stole my life, 20 years on my knees while he hid the truth." Unusual, confusing details muddled the contest. Victor produced letters allegedly from Harlan, disowning any lost child, but the postmarks mismatched known timelines, one dated after his death in an impossible scrawl, suggesting forgery or ghostly intervention that chilled the room. The locket's visions intensified, leading me dramatically to the diner's basement during a midnight search with Alex, flashlight beams dancing like accusatory fingers over crates where we unearthed a dusty diary, entries in Harlan's hand confessing remorse but mentioning a phantom twin who vanished, pages torn out ambiguously, leaving gaps that confused lineage like a puzzle missing pieces. Tension built in anonymous threats slipped under my wiper, drop the claim or join the shadows, handwriting shifting between sessions, blurring culprits from Victor to unknown players. My quiet rage erupted in tearful nights, anxiety attacks gripping like vices as whispers from the locket echoed, "Dig deeper, but beware the false path." Caldwell's investigations revealed Harlan's dramatic guilt, overheard confessions to priests about stealing from the innocent, but red herring artifacts like a mismatched locket chain found in Victor's possession added suspicion, tangling alliances in a web where drama pulsed like a heartbeat, foes whispering from every corner.
Shocking fact about how family betrayals hide fortunes for generations, often with twisted, confusing legacies that erupt in courtrooms where witnesses collapse in tears, revealing half-truths that shatter lives like fragile glass. The legal battle unfolded in a drafty Wilkes-Barre courthouse that spring of 2020, proceedings laced with high drama as testimonies clashed like storm waves. Old regulars taking the stand, one breaking down sobbing. Harlan confessed to me on his deathbed about the fraud, but he mentioned a twin daughter, his voice faltering as if haunted by the words. Unexpected twists heightened the intrigue. A surprise witness, an elderly nurse from a nearby hospital, claimed Harlan raved in delirium about switching babies decades ago, but her records showed mismatched dates for my birth, suggesting hospital errors or deliberate swaps that tangled my identity in confusion. Margaret's quiet rage boiled over in a passionate courtroom outburst. "I've mopped your lies for years. Now face the truth." The judge pounded the gavel amid gasps, tears streaming down my face as Victor sneered from his seat, his lawyer producing ambiguous photos of a woman resembling me, but with subtle differences, a scar absent, eyes colder, whispering of a phantom twin lurking in shadows. Unusual, confusing details proliferated, forged bank statements with signatures half-matching mine, whispers from anonymous calls claiming the real heir watches, blurring foes from phantoms. Drama peaked when a regular testified to seeing ghostly figures in the diner mirrors, dismissed as hallucination, but echoing my visions, adding supernatural fog to the fraud exposure. Harlan's guilt unraveled in tearful admissions from his former accountant, who confessed under oath to cooking books, but hinted at another party involved, a red herring, lead to a vanished business partner whose name appeared on mismatched deeds. The courtroom air thick with tension, my heart raced in anxiety-fueled palpitations, the web of deceit pulling tighter with each confusing revelation.
Margaret forgave, yet claimed her due in a voice cracking with unresolved pain. But the confession letter's stain, tears or blood, tested positive for neither in a lab twist that suggested ink mimicry, deepening the enigma of who penned the apology. The turning point crashed like a wave in that final hearing of 2020. Victory declared amid dramatic sobs from the gallery as the judge ruled in my favor, exposing Harlan's fraud in a blistering summation that left Victor ashen, his contest crumbling under evidence's weight. But the final twist unraveled tearfully. Tucked in the photo frame, discovered during a post-verdict search with Caldwell, was Harlan's confession letter, ink faded but words searing, apologizing for romancing my mother in the 1950s, driving her away with jealousy, then defrauding my parents out of the diner after their accident, but hinting at a switched-at-birth scheme orchestrated by a vengeful midwife, muddling my origins with possibilities of a twin raised in shadows. Unusual, confusing detail. The letter stain, sent to a lab at my insistence, tested as neither tears nor blood, but a rare archival ink used in forgeries, suggesting tampering, perhaps by Victor or an unknown hand, to sow doubt. Drama overflowed in my confrontation with the past, tears flooding as I whispered forgiveness to the empty air. Harlan, you stole my life, but I reclaim it now. Yet the lost child clause echoed, confusing with red herring birth records showing 2 certificates for my date, one altered subtly. My quiet rage transmuted into resolute tears, the victory bittersweet amid the labyrinth of misleading relics that left allies questioning and foes vanishing into whispers. Shocking fact that overlooked workers sometimes inherit empires, turning mops into legacies fraught with dramatic enigmas, where triumphs tangle with unresolved phantoms, leaving heirs forever glancing over shoulders. A new dawn broke in 2021, sunlight piercing my renovated diner, now Ellison's Eatery, amid celebratory yet tense family reunions, where distant cousins arrived with conflicting tales of the twin who vanished, their stories shifting like sands, adding lingering confusion to toasts. I transformed the space with fresh paint, covering the deceitful walls, but kept the photo framed as a reminder, its locket now a necklace that warmed strangely during storms, visions fading, but whispers persisting. The air watches still. Drama lingered in anonymous notes that arrived sporadically, handwriting mismatched each time. Claim not over, phantom awaits, blurring closure with paranoia that spiked my anxiety in quiet moments. My quiet satisfaction tempered by ongoing mystery, a final red herring lead from a private investigator revealing Harlan's business partner as a fictitious name on deeds, perhaps a code for the twins' alias. Family loyalty tested in tearful arguments with newfound relatives eyeing the millions, but I held firm, channeling the fortune into community scholarships, my mop retired like a scepter laid to rest. Reflections on patient justice filled my days, life's twists a beautiful, confusing tapestry where vengeance whispered through the inheritance, ghosts demanding due but leaving enigmas eternal. If these narratives awaken the dormant rage within you, if they stir echoes of your own betrayals, those wounds inflicted in silence, those revenges dreamed in the dead of night, then heed this call from the abyss. Subscribe now, and let each notification become a midnight summons, drawing you deeper into our veiled congregation, where the wronged find voice. But do not stop there. Etch your mark upon these threads. Comment below with the shards of your stories, the whispers of wrongs endured, the visions of vengeance imagined. And if your tale burns bright enough, send it to us through the shadows, that we may weave it into our tapestry, amplifying your silent cry into a symphony of satisfaction for all to hear. For in sharing we sharpen the blade together. In unity we turn isolation into an empire of elegant reprisal. Subscribe, comment, submit your saga, and let the unraveling of fates begin. Yours, mine, ours. Patient, beautiful, unseen until it strikes eternal.